Hello you lovely people and welcome. In this video I'll be doing a navigation and autopilot demo in the Iris Simulations Texan 2. So to start with, we're going to do the flight planning. So as you can see, I've got my short flight plan here because it's a slower turboprop. We have no jet engines, so reducing the size of the circuit that I'm going to do, just so I'm not here all day explaining the video to you. So I'm going to take off from Coningsby. I'm going to head out towards FQ26 up to XWM01 just above Waddington and below Lincoln, over to Rogag, down to Anvil, and then to FI25, and then we'll do an ILS approach into Coningsby. We'll be doing this with a mixture of manual and autopilot, but I'll explain obviously more as we dive in. And then once we've done the flight planning part of it, we'll have a look at the autopilot proper, and we'll chase some TACANs, some VORs, if possible ADFs, and see where we can go from there. Let's jump in the Texan. Before we go anywhere, we need to have a look at the systems and also configure the aircraft ready to roll. So we're going to come down to our PFD here, and we're just going to have a look at this bottom section. As you can see, the PFD source is the FMS, which has a flight planning. Tells us our next waypoint, how far away we are, and direction. And we can also switch through different methods of navigation on here as well, but I'm going to switch off the blue and green arrows, and I'm just going to leave it so that the FMS is the only source of navigation here. If we come over to the TSD, you'll see that we also have the flight plan in that. We zoom out, you can see the loop that I've got set up, and yeah, up the top here we've got our waypoint, distance, time to, and our estimated time of arrival on the clock. So we can get more precise information on when we will get to where we need to be. Now we need to set up the autopilot, and we also need to set the, or zero out the altimeters, 1012, and we do that with this one with that knob here. I'm going to turn the brightness down on that because as usual it's way too bright. 15% is usually enough. There we go, much more readable. 1012, 1012. Now we're going to get rid of the ICAS page. We've got no warnings, so all is good. We're going to come down to AFCS, Automatic Flying Control System. Okay, we're going to set our cruising altitude up here. We're going to put 2,500 feet, enter that. It's now in the autopilot. As you can see, it's set there. What I'm going to do is once we get up in the air, I will activate autopilot, and I'll also activate the altitude hold and the nav hold. And what you'll see is once the nav hold has been switched on, we'll have a little nav here in the PFD, and this little orange arrow here coincides with the autopilot being active, and that will actually end up facing where we need to go. So enough waffling on. Zeroed out, we've got flaps in takeoff. I'm going to take taxi light off, and let's roll. Okay, so parking brake off, toe brakes on. Okay, throttle up. Brakes off. Oh. Rotate now. Gear up. flaps up, come down to the autopilot, activate it, and you can see we've got pitch hold is automatically engaged. Stick on the nav hold as well, and you can see the nav has appeared up there, and the orange diamond has now shifted from 330 up to our current heading. And what will happen is the pitch hold will keep us at this angle until we reach our altitude. It will then level out, it will switch over to altitude hold, and then we should hold at 2,500 feet. So let's see what happens. There we go. So altitude hold has come online, and we'll keep climbing until we hit 2,500 feet. Now, we're going to follow this flight plan with the nav hold. I have had occasions where the aircraft just ignores the flight plan, just keeps going. What I've had to do is change the PFD source to switch it off, and then go back into FMS again, and it usually follows the flight plan. So we'll see what happens. Now you can see on the TSD we've got our waypoint has already changed, and we've not turned. There's Cranwell. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit PFD source off, back on again. Okay, and now we're turning. If you find that you're not engaging with the flight plan, just try switching the PFD source off, get back into FMS, and it should behave itself. So now we're heading towards Waddington, well, between Waddington and Lincoln, and yeah, we should level out. Well, it will turn into the flight plan until the course deviation indicator moves in. Once that's in line, it will straighten out and actually follow the flight plan proper. Now you can see the deviation indicator is moving ever so slowly into position. And with that, the aircraft is actually turning, but by the time it actually levels out, it will be time to turn on to our next waypoint. Throttle back slightly, bring the pitch back slightly as well, don't want to overspeed the aircraft. Okay, there's RF Waddington there, the new V-Force bomber base, now that the Just Flight Vulcan has been released. Okay, so we're 4.2 nautical miles away. We usually get a course change right up until 1 nautical miles, and then it usually switches over, sometimes before. All depends on its mood. And there we go. Switching over to ROGAG, and I will speed the flight from here onwards. Don't need to explain anymore, I think I've covered enough. We'll just get to Coningsby and get on to the next stage of the video. And now we've switched on to Anvil. Okay, now we've switched over to FI25. That's our initial point before we get in line with Coningsby. There's Coningsby there. And there we go, we've turned onto EGXC, which is RF Coningsby. Once we turn in, you'll see that it'll sit on the nose. And there he is. Right then, let's get on to our next part of the exercise. I'll show you Autopilot, and then we'll use the things that I show you to chase VORs and TACANs. We're cruising over Lincolnshire at the moment. I have the Autopilot engaged at the moment. We're holding at 1,500, cruising at around about 250 knots. And we've got the heading hold on and the altitude hold on. So I've set the altitude and we've climbed to it, and the heading is following the heading bug. Now, quickly go over the Autopilot before we do VOR stuff, because we'll be using some of the Autopilot functions for that, and then we'll finish off with an ILS landing. Let's start with the pitch hold. It's pretty self-explanatory. You pull the aircraft up or push the aircraft down into a climb or a descent, and you can click pitch hold and it will stay there in that position, or until you have an altitude selected. If you hold the pitch up and you're climbing, once it gets near the altitude that you want, it will disengage and it will cross over to the altitude hold, and the same will be in reverse for descent. Altitude hold, self-explanatory. You click here, put in your altitude, and it will hold at that altitude, but it won't climb to that altitude with just that on. You can either use pitch hold or vertical speed hold. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my altitude to 2,500 feet. We're going to enter that there. As you can see, it's changed, but we are not climbing. Now to do that, we're going to either need pitch hold or vertical speed. I'm not going to do the pitch hold because, like I said, that's self-explanatory. Vertical speed, a little bit different. I'm going to engage it. It's got a plus 200 feet per minute. I'm going to change that though, and we're going to come here, click that, and I'm going to change that to 1,000 feet per minute. Enter that, and you can see the climb has changed slightly, and we're making that climb a little bit quicker. Now it can also work in the descent. We can click that, and everything that you enter will be a climb, a plus altitude. If we want to do minus, we have to come down here to the plus minus button, hit that. You can see we've got vertical speed minus. I'm just going to enter in 100 feet per minute. Enter that. You can see we're now in descent at 100 feet per minute, but I don't want to descend, so I shall change that again to 1,000 feet per minute in the positive. Enter that. Okay, and you can see altitude hold was armed and that vertical speed was engaged, but now we're close to the altitude, it switched over to altitude hold, and once it gets to 2,500 feet it will stay there. Next is heading hold. This one is a bit of a pain, as there is just no simple heading bug knob to turn the heading bug to and let the aircraft climb or turn to it, you have to click down here, and you'll see that we've got heading up here. Click that. I'm going to change, no, actually no, that's not what you do. You click that and you just fill the dashes with whatever you want. So if we want to turn to 330, enter that. Now the aircraft will turn to 330. But what we also can do is we can use this data entry knob here. Click that, and now we can actually turn the knob to where we want to turn to, but it will not turn the actual heading bug. The heading bug will stay where we're facing, which is really annoying. So if we turn to say 030, so you see we've not got any movement there at all. We have to hold left click and right click to activate that. Now that will put the heading bug where you want it. So it makes chasing VORs and things like that a little bit more awkward if you're doing it manually. Okay, with that done, let's move over to VORs, and then we'll finish off with TACAN and then an ILS landing. Now, I just happen to be really close to Ottringham, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the Ottringham frequency into the nav radio. So we want to go to nav tune, and we want to change our VOR to 113. Come on, what's going on here? Nav tune 113.900. Press enter, and the VOR pings up. If we get rid of the blue arrow and change the PFD source to off, you can see we have our heading for the TACAN. Gives us distance, doesn't give us a bearing, which is unfortunate because we could have actually entered the bearing in for, unless I'm not looking in the right place, the bearing for our heading bug. Or if you really want to do it the lazy way, you can put VOR in and hit nav. Okay, and once that course deviation indicator has centralized, the aircraft will fly towards that TACAN. I do have the ILS, the VOR package that actually has the beacons as scenery, so we should be able to see it. How far off are we? Only 2 nautical miles, so it should be off the nose somewhere. The one thing that you won't see though is you won't see the course needle swing. Deviation will swing out, but the needle will still keep pointing forwards, and we'll just keep going forwards, whereas the VOR needle is swinging round as well. So we'll take the nav holders disengaged because we've flown over the top of the VOR. As you can see, if we take the PFD source off, the VOR has swung round. So if we put in 180, enter, and do a heading hold, we'll turn round back towards that VOR. that's it there, actually. Yeah, that's the beacon there. So that's Altrincham. Okay, I'm going to stick Trent in just to show you the change. So we want 115.700. So we're going to change nav tune at 115.700. Enter. Okay, and as you can see, now the VOR needle has changed. And just take that off for a second and stick it in the PFD source, so it gives us some information up here. As you can see, if we actually turn that back on, okay, so we've got 64.2 nautical miles away, our frequency, our time to get there, and our estimated time of arrival. I'm not going to waste 12 minutes flying to Trent because we do have well, I'm not going to fly 63 nautical miles, but you get the gist. And again, you can either do a nav hold while PFD source is in VOR, and that will fly into the course deviation indicator. Once it's in line with the needle, it will fly onto the VOR, or you can do it manually following the green arrow. But I don't recommend using the heading bug hold version of it because it's just a pain in the backside. Flying manually would be quite fun for that. So I'm going to turn off both the VOR and the FMS source there. Okay, to off, so we've got nothing at the moment. Now we're going to move on to TACANs. Now, to do that, we want nav tune. As you can see, we're in Trent. Change that again. Now we've got a TACAN channel. Hit that. I'm going to put in 048 for RF Coningsby. Enter that. You can change the band to Yankee if you have it. As you can see, we've got our ident there as Coningsby. And if I put that into the PFD source, we have well, the course needle's facing in the wrong direction for starters. So if I'm going to change that quickly to 180, enter, to get the course needle facing the right way, because if you put the nav hold, if you engage it, it will turn around, start flying north until it realises that it's going the wrong way, and then it will turn around. So now that the TACAN source is actually facing in the right direction, we can follow that. Now if we hit nav hold, we'll fly slightly into the course deviation indicator. You can see we're 21 nautical miles away, still a bit of a distance. So what I'll do is I will either jump cut or speed up. Jump cut will probably be better, but as you can see, course deviation is coming in very slowly, and we are going to be turning back onto course. Okay, we're at 2,500 feet, and well, everything is where I need it to be. So happy days. Okay, we should be making a slight right bank shortly. Then again, we do have 6 knot crosswind here, so maybe there we go. Leveling out. Now it would be nice if we had some actual information on the HUD. You'd think it'd feed information there so that you've got some, you know, you'd have to keep looking down. I know we have the in the config we've got F35 HUD, but for some reason it doesn't seem to switch over, and if it has, it's still not showing me all the information. So yeah, not working. It would be handy though, just it's sort of a point of view of you know, having distance bearing, ident, all that sort of stuff without even having to take my eyes away from the HUD. There you go, that's life. We'll stick the AFCS back on. Right then, so we'll speed it up. We are 10 nautical miles away. Okay, we're over the top of Coningsby. Well, we're just over a nautical mile away, and there we go, just showing up on the TSD now, and we'll probably get a disengaged nav hold there. There we go, we're over the top. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick the heading hold on. I'm going to head out to 070, and we're going to bring it in for the ILS. So I need a few things for this. I need to take the TACAN off of the PFD source. We're going to be using that again in a minute for VOR, but before we need to do that, we need to tune our VOR in. So 111.150, enter. Okay, and there we go, we've got Coningsby ILS. Nothing on here because nothing's selected yet, but we're going to fly out a bit as we are still a bit too close to the airfield. Okay. How far out are we? Let's do source. We are 4.1 nautical miles. We'll get that to around about 8 nautical miles. We'll start turning in. So I want 345. So heading is 350 in a minute. I'm not going to change it just yet. Start slowing down a bit as well. As you can see, we are in the cone of the ILS. We've got the ILS lateral bar there, and we've also got the glide slope. Turn to 340. Okay, so I'm going to change the heading to 340. Yeah, 340, enter. Okay, we'll start turning in. Now if we start making a diagonal turn into the across the runway, so if we go for 270, so we can change the heading to 270, enter. Okay, I'm going to get the gear down, takeoff flaps down. See, we've pretty much got Coningsby on the nose there, and we are pretty much on glide slope as well. So I'm going to hit APR hold on. As you can see, we are now being fed information by the localizer. The approach hold is doing all the work now, and we're heading in, bringing us in laterally, and we pretty much bang on the glide slope. Okay, bring on the landing flaps. Keep the speed up slightly and don't drop too quickly. So we've got a slight 7-knot diagonal wind there. Be wary of that when we touch down. Okay, we just need to flare out and then all is good. Throttle back. Just let it float down and we're down. Okay, so that's autopilot and navigation in the Iris Simulations Texan 2. So I hope you got something from that, and hope you got it this far. If you did, thank you for watching, and as always, take care, and I will catch you in the next one.